compound words in English, we have compound words in Spanish, correct? But they're not always the same compound words, although sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not the same compound words. So in that case, what we did was we put the examples in blue to alert the teachers and the practitioners, okay, it's the same construct, yet the examples are a little bit different. So is everybody seeing how we did that? Yeah? Okay. So then we had things that were Spanish specific. How did we deal with those? Let's look at that. Again, I'm highlighting fluency, but let's look at first grade phonics. And what you see there bolded and underlined, see the text that's bolded and underlined there? That means it's a California-specific standard. Okay, so Common Core went, know and apply grade level phonics and word analysis skills in decoding in decoding words, and California added both in isolation and in text. Okay, so when you see the Common Core version, what we have done is we have deleted the California part, and it's the Common Core. So when you adapt these for your state, you have to add your 15% and see where it is that happens. Okay, so here we have something that talks about, we're talking about sound spelling correspondence, and we're talking about diagraphs. Okay, so what are the diagraphs in Spanish? We have diagraphs, but let's call them out. So again, the Spanish, the blue highlight, the Spanish specific. Do you see that? Okay, let's look at now how we dealt with something that is not in Spanish at all, like the silent E. Right? So we got to the silent E, and then we said, okay, well, what is the big idea here? This is first grade. The children are studying phonics, and they're studying vowels. You know, what are the vowel patterns in the Spanish language? How do vowels work? And so the idea is that we then, you know, did a standard that, again, it's blue, and it calls out to the las vocales débiles y las vocales fuertes, which is what first graders need to master in first grade. So again, we have a sense of equivalency within the pedagogy of what is being done. Okay, continuing. Then we have, we did, again, concepts in print, where you have the idea of punctuation. In Spanish, you see that we had to recognize punctuation on both sides of the sentence, at the beginning of the sentence and at the end. And that's different than English, okay? Let's look at another thing. We had, again, little places like the long and short vowels in Spanish. In English, then we did the diptongos y los hiatos. Do you see? So when English was treating their vowels, we were treating our vowels, type of thing, right? Okay, let's move on, and you can see how then the Spanish is overlaid and is still very parallel to the English. Is everybody good with that? Thumbs up? Okay, great. Okay, so then now what we wanted to talk about, that's what I wanted to ask you. What do you think so far? Give me a thumbs up. Does it square with your beliefs? But again, you will have a chance to, these will go up on the Common Core website, and there's a contact us, and you can write in there anything you want to write to send us messages about how it's going, and especially when you get them to the classroom. Okay, let's look at acentuación, because this one we were at CABE, and we had to call Carrie Heath and go, okay, there are 2 strands here that we're going to have to add, because English does not have them. So we need a whole acentuación strand. You know, there's no way. There was no way to go parallel with it. And the other strand that we wanted to add was el idioma español. So one thing is, let's look at acentuación. So what we did is, we added acentuación we integrated it in the foundational skills with concepts in print, so that the children in kindergarten, remember the whole idea of the progressions of skills. In kindergarten, the children look at acentuación as a little marquita, una tilde, encima de las vocales. Mira, ahí está. ¿Ven? Es igual que, es algo que ven en imprenta, right? Okay, so we want to start there with concepts in print. We want to go to phonological awareness, la diferencia entre papa y papá, right? And then have that skill, look at the accent, and the students will correlate it to the tilde. And then, of course, it grows up into phonics and word analysis. Okay. So again, throughout, we had the progression so that the kids would be attaining not just the rules, but the real sense of the music of the Spanish language through the accent. And of course, not just the music, but later on, meaning. Okay? And that whole prosody. And the accent is so important in so many ways. So then for the older students, we actually did in tercero, cuarto, y quinto grado, third, fourth, and fifth, you actually now have the process where we want the students to internalize the process, that they look at a word and they can have internalized the accentuation rules. So that's how we presented it, and it's there. And you see, it's all in blue. Okay, then we have the Idioma en Español strand that is aligned to social studies. And this is very much guided by Isabel and Alma, Flor, because again, we're not just teaching, we are not just teaching the skills of the language. We have to do that too, but we have to tie language to identity, to history, to the culture of a group of people, to the way we communicate and we communicate to others, all the way to the realization that language is thought and there's thought patterns. So these are the ideas that we want to develop as we teach Spanish to our children and to everyone else, because this is what we want. We want fully bilingual, bicultural, multicultural students, okay? So now we get to the big A part. The assessment, we want to call out for assessments, but you heard Dr. Alma Florada this morning, and how we need to also transform the way we assess students and transform the way we look at those scores. We want to be advocacy-oriented, like Jim Cummings has always pointed out. So we do want, and why do we need Common Core in Español? Why do we need it? Because we want access to this 21st century pedagogy. We want equity, we want opportunity, but we have to have this accountability. And we want to make sure that it's rigorous, and we want to make sure that it's excellent. So one of the things that we want to be able to do is we want to provide Spanish language instruction to students that are learning English and be able to show the correlation and be able to affirm when a child is given a primary language and they can study it and they can think and develop cognition, then English will also benefit. And that's how you become fully biliterate. But if right now we only assess one of the two languages, what happens? There's no way to show. There's no way to show the correlation. There's no way to show the efficacy of our programs, and there's no accountability. So if we have standards now, we need to follow it with a valid assessment system, a comprehensive and valid assessment system, and one that goes beyond just standardized testing, as Alma pointed out this morning. Okay, so access and opportunity to learn is what we are dealing with here. We want to invite each and every one of you to take this back. Don't just come to NAVE. This is awesome. I'm so glad I'm here. But it's our responsibility to take what we learn here and take it back. Take it back and put it to action. Think about your professional development. Think about how we are having to, now that we have the standards in both languages, think of the possibilities to negotiate meaning in both languages in our classroom. Let's rethink some of the pedagogy. Let's rethink the way we are collaborating about presenting ideas and inclusion of knowledge in our classrooms, okay? So, again, national implementation, these are the standards. We want you to take them back. They are on the website, is the first rough draft edition. We still have one final revision to do. We want to hear from you, make sure we haven't missed anything. These are ours, they're yours already. So we want you to take part in reading them, feeding back, and we have Teresa Mahler that is going to be doing the final editing, and we're very proud and grateful to her for doing so. Okay, now next steps. We gotta announce this for a second. We have Appendix A. We are going to continue working with Dr. Alma Florada and Isabel Campoy. This is like the whole idea of the skill progressions of the Spanish language that's coming up. Appendix B is again the whole idea of the examples of text complexity and quality. We want, again, Teresa Muller is going to lead the charge here in finding the books that are the exemplars. So we have a collaborative. Alex Correa is going to help, Isabel Campoy, Alma Florada, and others that we're going to invite into the process. Again, contact us if you want to be part of this process of doing the book selections and the exemplars of our Spanish language literature and readings for kindergarten through 12th grade. Then there's Appendix C. That's where the districts come in. This is a good take back. Look at the writing. We need samples of writing. We need each district to look at the writing, to look at the writing types, to come up with the rubrics, to come up with the examples, and to put them online for your district. And then we will select to create something that will help all of us guide the writing, which is such an important domain, correct? So again, Appendix A, Isabel Campoy is leading that charge. Appendix B, Teresa Mahler is leading that charge. Appendix C, districts. It has to be local. The writing of the children has to be done locally. Okay, so next we're going to have Isabel Campoy give us a closing, but we will stay here afterwards to make sure that we can answer your questions.
¿Y cómo pasas esto? Silvia is muy, muy humilde. She is very, very humble. We want and publicly acknowledge that without her, this would not have been possible, that she is a hero. She has spent a whole year, and she deserves our applause. Thank you, Silvia. Thank you. Yes, thank you. We are little hormiguitas in her world. So I am just going to finish en resumen a personalized touch of the common standards. And what I want to say is that when you teach, go and teach with a methodology that you feel authentic. Value your experience. Nothing can be more important than what you bring, your heart, your mind, and all of the many examples of the faces of children that you have had in front of you. Use Spanish, and I put it in quotes there because you probably could be teaching Chinese or German or French. Use Spanish as often as possible. And by that I mean that if you speak Spanish, speak it with your colleagues in the halls of the school, with your principals. Give the example of your bilingualism, porque no es posible que seamos maestros de un idioma, pero que siempre hablemos otro. Así no llegamos a dar el ejemplo que debemos dar. Value the language and the heritage of your students. Third, send and receive messages to and from home. Value the life of your student families. Don't ask them to come just to bring food or for the theatrical presentations. Value them. Send them messages saying, what does friendship mean for you? And receive through the children and make a book that is the knowledge of our parents. Or what are your values, or what are your your recommendations, cuáles son los consejos de los padres, and do a book, an anthology with the results of those things that you sent home. And keep asking them, let's write the history of our names. Let's write who is our family. How did we arrive in the United States? Let's ask the parents to bring their knowledge because they do have it. And we have to value them that way. And if I could pass to the next page, I could tell you, I would really like, okay, there we are. Open all academic fields to the use of Spanish. Read nonfiction, age-appropriate books to introduce concepts, facts, important people. Value the effect of cross-curricular bilingualism. When you are in other subjects, in other opportunities of knowledge, use Spanish to bring the knowledge of biographies or nonfiction that is going to augment the vocabulary and the use of Spanish in the classroom. Join the efforts to create a national movement that assigns extra credits, and this is an important thing, to bilingual students. Value the power of biliteracy seal in high school diplomas, as well as biliteracy awards in kinder, in third, in sixth, and in eighth grades. If our children, when they graduate, they have in their diplomas and special seal, you are bilingual, it is really an important thing. Being bilingual means now, finally, research says that is better. For years, research had said, you know, if you study a second language or another language, you are going to jeopardize the learning of Spanish. Now, even the New York Times says that if you speak two languages, you are faster, more intelligent, and you have better ways to serve the world. Finally, finally, finally. And voice the need to adopt los estándares en español de Silvia, Dorta-Duque, de Reyes, de la Nación, with all necessary augmentations and adaptations in your state. You know that each state has the possibility of adding a 15%, as in California we have done. You have in each state that possibility of augmentation. And so finally, I also want to say that the goal is to develop the expressive, interpretative, and critical capacities of all students to become competent members of society. And that we should underline many, many times. Our students are 10%. Spanish-speaking students are 10% of the population that graduates of high school. We should all be crying here, shouting, how come a 10% of our students? What are we doing wrong? Well, it is time to change, not to start, you know, saying how terrible situations are. We already know that the situation is muy grave, but here we are in order to make the necessary changes. And only then they will be equipped to serve in the pursuit of an equitable and just society, one that understands the value of the word paz. Thank you so very much, and go and get them. Thank you.
Por favor. Muy buenos días. I needed 5 clones this morning, and I only found 1. So I'm here. I was late because I was helping other folks set up. Pero muchas gracias por haber venido. Thank you for coming. You may wonder, ¿por qué este gringo habla español también, que tiene un nombre que se llama Santiago Wood? Bueno, yo, como todos ustedes, tengo una historia. Una abuelita de Ponce, Puerto Rico, nacido en Ponce, boricua. Una mamá panameña, nacido en Panamá. Un papá gringo de Hartford, Connecticut, en el Navy. Y un abuelito de la isla Martinica francesa. Así que en nuestra casa, yo falo portugués y casado con una brasilera. Así que esta es la historia mía. Pero it's important that I do something really, really important that the board designated me to do. Dr. Alma Flor, por favor, pase. Un aplauso, por favor. You know, God sends lots of people in our lives so that we can realize our destiny. And I want to say that there are 4 people in my life that I eternally love. My mother, my wife, my daughter, and my big sister here. I could say that from the bottom of my heart. Because if it weren't for Dr. Alma Flor Ada, I would not be here standing before you, because she took me under her wings a few years ago, nurtured me, got me through a Title VII bilingual education program, was able to implant in me a spirit with Dr. Paulo Freire, La Pedagogia del Oprimido, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And we have been, the parties we've had at her house, the books that she's exposed us to. I mean, this was more than a professional relationship. This was a big sister-brother relationship. I personally say to you that everything in my life I've accomplished was because of the seed that Dr. Alma Flor Ada planted in me. And I am hoping, because she's given so much to me and so many students, that we can also give something back with a legacy. Pero I wanted to give to Dr. Alma Flor Ada, the first BRJ, our bilingual research journal editor. That history of all the bilingual education research came from Dr. Alma Flor Ada. That's available on our webpage. This presentation this morning was the first ever. It was launched here at NABE for the first time. It is being recorded. It will be uploaded to NABE webpage. It will go on the national web, so anyone who's doing research in a Common Core in Spanish will have access to that, all because of these 3 incredible individuals, Dr. Alma Flor Ada, her leadership, Dr. Isabel Campoy, and Dr. Silvia Reyes. They call and says, NABE, we have done something. We would like you, with the relationship that Dr. Alma Flor Ada has with us, to put it out there for the first time. So this is a first, and the board has a new tradition now. The board has designated about 15 people nationwide as lifetime honorary members of NABE, and this pin will entitle them to all of the resource and access to NABE and NABE board for life. So para mí, Dr. Alma Flor Ada, once we did a presentation at USF, Dr. Alma Flor Ada me pidió que hiciera una presentación al Dr. Paulo Freire, and she had the opportunity to pin on me the University of San Francisco pin. Now I come back a few years later, I am pinning on her the lifetime NABE honorary membership pin. Un aplauso, por favor.
May every one of you have students like I have had in Santiago and many others. This is a demonstration of why every one of your sacrifices, of your efforts, of your commitment, of your tiredness, of all those things that you do every day so generously, well, you see, is planting seeds. And the greatest honor, thank you for the pin, Santiago, but the greatest honor is that he continues to acknowledge himself as my student, even though he's found this beautiful big sister nomenclature that it's just so such a treasure for me. Again, may you have the students you deserve.
No matter what we do in life, un aplauso, por favor, un aplauso, un grande aplauso. You know, the hallmark of Dr. Alma Flor Ada has always been su espíritu de humildad. She has always been a super humble person. We cannot be leaders unless we are servant, and we cannot be great unless we're humble. And this is exemplary of that right now.
Thank you. Anybody that wants any of the few little things that we have, and we also have some things in the chairs behind.